I moved into a weird little row house in Philadelphia when I was 22. It was my first time living alone. Everything about the place had character. The crooked floors, the dented heater grates, the way the stairs creaked no matter how quiet you tried to be. But the thing that made me fall in love with it? The skylight in the upstairs bedroom. You could lie in bed right under it and look straight up into the stars. That first week was borderline magical. I'd come home late, kick my shoes off, light a candle or two, and just melt into the mattress under that glass ceiling. It felt safe in a strange way. Like no matter how old the building was, or how creaky, or how stained the grout in the bathroom was, it welcomed me. That feeling didn't last. It happened on the 8th night. I remember because it had rained all day, then cleared up into one of those crisp, chilly evenings where it feels like the sky is stretching forever. I was already in bed, scrolling through my phone, when the glass above me fogged up. Just a faint breath-like smearing that moved across it. Which was odd, because it was sealed, double pane, no draft, no opening. And I don't have pets or tall plants. Still, I told myself it was condensation from earlier weather. I turned over and ignored it. Then came the tapping. Not like heavy knocks. Not something demanding. No, it was rhythmic. A slow, deliberate fingertip tap against the glass. 1, 2, 3. Then a pause. Then 1, 2, 3 again. Now listen. I've lived in cities my whole life. Noise is part of the territory. But something about the timing was wrong. It didn't feel random. It felt behavioral, like it was waiting for something. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and shined it upward through the skylight. Nothing. Not even rain droplets. Just my own face, half shot in silver light, staring back at me through the reflection. I went to sleep eventually, though my dreams that night felt less like dreams and more like memory remixes. Old arguments with my dad, the sound of water dripping, someone whispering my name from the bottom of a pool. Every night after that, I'd hear that tap. Same rhythm. Always around 1:13 a.m. Not a minute before, not a minute after. I recorded it once, played it back the next morning, and didn't hear anything but a low electric hum. Still convinced myself it was just pipes, or wind, or even some tree movement I couldn't see. Until a week later, when my neighbor knocked at my door. She was maybe 60, lived next door with her husband. Very kind woman. She brought me muffins when I first moved in. That night, she was visibly shaken and asked if someone had been trying to get into my upstairs window. No, I said. It's a skylight anyway. You'd need a ladder or a death wish. She said she was up late doing crosswords and saw something on my roof. Not someone. Something. She wouldn't describe what, just kept saying it was too tall and bent wrong. She asked if I kept a mannequin or something creepy like that. I didn't. I didn't sleep at all that night. Instead, I just stared at the skylight. No tapping that night, only stillness. The next evening, It started again. 1, 2, 3, pause. 1, 2, 3. But the thing is, I was in the living room downstairs, not even under the glass when it began. Yet I still heard it. From 2 floors down, I went up, heart pounding, and stood right under the skylight. Sure enough, my breath fogged in the air. It was ice cold in the room, and the tapping was louder now. The kind of sharp that didn't echo. It just burrowed into your spine. I climbed onto the bed and shined my flashlight up again. There was a handprint. Not a full one. Not perfect. Just the greasy, semi-visible imprint of fingers and a palm. Inside the glass, like between the panes, just pressed and frozen in fog. The next morning, I called a roofing guy to inspect it. He found no gaps, no leaks, no room between the layers of glass to even put anything. I showed him the print. He said maybe it was from install years ago. Left it at that. I spent that evening avoiding the upstairs. Didn't even go near it. Watched a movie, blared music, kept every light on. But around 1:13, the sound didn't come from the skylight this time. It came from the wall. 3 taps. I followed the sound like an idiot. Each time I got close, it moved. Behind me to the right, the ceiling, the floor. Then finally, the bathroom mirror. I stared into it, half expecting jump scares, but there was nothing. Until I blinked, and it blinked back, not delayed, not subtle, but deliberate and in sync. I stared into that mirror until my eyes stung. And somewhere deep in my chest, I swear I felt something smile. I didn't sleep at all that night. Didn't shower the next day. Didn't go near glass. I even covered the skylight with old towels, duct taping the edges so I wouldn't have to look. And for 3 days, silence. But then, on the 4th night, at 1:13 sharp, my phone screen lit up by itself from across the room. It had taken a photo. I checked the gallery. There was a new image. It was blurry, but no mistake. It was of me, in bed. Except I was facing the wrong way, lying under the skylight, eyes wide open, looking at something, no, someone, pressed against the glass from above. Someone tall, bent wrong, arms too long, and smiling. I moved out the following morning. Didn't bother taking the deposit back. I didn't even pack. Just left whatever I couldn't grab in one trip and never looked back. I still don't know what it wanted. I just know it waited. And it watched. And now when I'm still, I feel like it's beneath the floors. Waiting again. When my grandmother passed away, she left behind a house no one really wanted. It was a 2-story, Queen Anne-style place, tucked into one of those forgotten little towns in upstate New York. Half forest, half graveyard, all fog. The kind of place you drive through and think, this town holds on to things. Too old to abandon, too far gone to save. But I was freshly divorced, laid off, and emotionally wrung out. I figured I'd take the house, at least for a while. See if putting some work into it might help me forget that nothing else had worked out. The house had 6 bedrooms, most of them with the kind of ancient wallpaper that peels if you look at it wrong. I picked the smallest room upstairs because it was the least dusty. It had a slanted ceiling, a tiny dresser, and a window that looked out over the weeping willow in the backyard. The only room I didn't go into, not once, was the corner one with the sky blue door. My grandmother never called it by name. She just told us every time we visited, "Stay out of the blue room. It's never been quite right." I'd always thought she meant mold or maybe crumbling wood, probably structural, something boring. But still, when I scanned the upstairs during that first week, I never even reached for the handle. It felt like looking directly into sunlight. Your body flinches a little before your brain even registers why. The first month was quiet, refreshingly so. I painted the ceilings, fixed the squeaky railing on the porch, got the plumbing semi-reliable again. I even slept better than I had in years. But then, little things began. First, it was the cat. I don't own one, but I'd hear the sound every night of something pawing lightly at my bedroom door. Not scratching. You know that thump-thump motion cats make when they're tapping it with their pads? Exactly that. Every single night, around 2:40 a.m. I'd open the door every time. Nothing there. Just the faint smell of rain and something powdery, like baby talc, old and sour. Then it started moving around, pawing at the bathroom door when I was in the shower, at the attic hatch above the hallway. Once it pawed from the other side of my bedroom window, on the second floor. I tried convincing myself, raccoons maybe, wind and brain paranoia. But the pressure behind those sounds, it felt deliberate. It felt aware of me. The noises stopped after I set up a nightlight in the hallway. They didn't end, they escalated. I began seeing the shape, barely noticeable at first. Just a flicker in the corner of my eyes, right before doorways. Then shadows under doors when no one else was in the house. Then the closet. One night I was reading in bed, the hallway nightlight glowing soft through the cracked open door. All was quiet, balm still. And then the closet door creaked slightly open, just a notch. I stared, tried not to blink. Nothing moved. Even leaned a little sideways, trying to see under the gap. But then, the closet door creaked again and closed. No breeze, no vents. Manual hinges. I sat frozen until morning, with every light in the house on. But I still didn't open the blue room. I thought about it often though. How it sat in that corner, door perfectly smooth, little ceramic doorknob gleaming faintly in the moonlight. I started dreaming about it. Same dream every time. I'd be wandering the house, but the layout changed. The hallways would stretch too long. The stairs would spiral endlessly, like old hotel corridors. But the dream always ended the same way. I'd be in front of the blue room, and I'd open it, and someone would be on the ceiling looking down at me. Someone with no eyes. On the 6th week, I woke up to cold. Not just drafty, but biting, own-sick cold. My breath rose in clouds, swirling above me like mist. I checked the thermostat. 48 degrees. I ran back upstairs to grab an extra blanket and saw the blue door slightly ajar. Just a half inch, just enough to see the edge of a crib. I don't remember running. I just know I ended up outside. No coat, in bare feet, standing in the frost-bitten grass, staring up at the house like it had just exhaled. That room had been locked since she died. The next day, I taped the door shut. Floor to knob. I refused to even touch the handle. Pushed a bookcase in front of it. Started sleeping downstairs on the couch. But the thing is, once I did that, it got worse. Because now, the crib wasn't only in the blue room. It followed me. In flashes, in reflections. I'd glance into the microwave door, and inside, there'd be the faint shape of white bars. I'd look at the shadows on the floor, and they'd be curved and cage-like. And once, sleeping downstairs with all the lights off, I rolled over and felt something gently touch my face. It was tiny, curved, like a baby's hand. I screamed, turned the lamp on. Nothing there. But the smell was overwhelming this time. Talcum, mildew, and something underneath that I can only call old crying. I moved out 2 days later. Didn't sell the house, didn't donate it, didn't even tell my family I'd left. I left a single note in the upstairs hall. It said Morkin, not the blue room. I heard 6 months later that the city condemned the property. Water damage, they said. But I knew. The last person to go in was an investigator. He opened the blue door. They found him curled up in the crib, still breathing, eyes rolled back, completely white. He'd been whispering something over and over again. They say it sounded like pawing. But sometimes I wonder, what if it was him, just trying to claw his way back out? I'd always wanted to live in a building like the ones you see in those grainy, sepia-toned New York movies. You know the kind. Brick exterior, creaky steps, tiny apartments stacked too close together. The smell of old wood varnish and steam heat and maybe a little regret. So when I landed my first real job in Brooklyn and found an affordable one-bedroom in a walk-up from 1926, I signed the lease without a second thought. It was on the second floor at the end of the hall, apartment 2A, across from 2C, which the landlord said had been vacant for years. That one's kind of storage now, the guy explained vaguely. Used to be livable, but too many plumbing issues. Can't rent it until it's gutted. The hallway to that unit was dim. The kind of dim that doesn't seem to come from weak bulbs, but from the space itself. Like some corners choose to hold on to shadows just a second too long. The first month went by without much excitement. Work, sleep, weekend errands, the usual. I kind of liked the isolation, honestly. No noisy neighbors, no one yelling through the walls. For New York, it was silence, and silence was rare. But one night, I was brushing my teeth when I heard it. A knock, 4 times. Deliberate, slow. Coming from inside the wall that separated my bathroom from the hall closet. The one that butted up against 2C. I froze, toothbrush in hand. Knock, 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 knock. No echo, no creaks. Just the sound of 4 knuckles rapping on the plaster like they'd been doing it for years. I opened the closet, empty. tapped the wall. Solid drywall. Knocked back the same rhythm, unsure why I did it. Nothing knocked back. A week later, I was heading up the stairs with groceries when I noticed the door to 2C was cracked open. The lights were off. The doorknob hung loosely, like it had been turned halfway and frozen in place. That tiny dark line along the jamb seemed to pulse somehow, like whatever was behind it was breathing lightly. I didn't go inside. I just closed it gently. The next morning, it was open again. This pattern continued. I'd closed 2C's door quietly on my way in. The next day open, slightly more, not swung wide, but expectant, daring. Like it was waiting for someone polite enough to finally ask if anyone was there. This continued for almost a month, until I finally asked the landlord. He got quiet, looked at the floor, said, "Far as I know, that door was sealed. There's no working keys for it." When I told him I'd seen it open more than once, his eyes went cold. He swallowed, then asked in a whisper, "Had you ever heard about Marlene?" I hadn't. He told me she was the last tenant in 2C. Lived there alone in the 70s. Shy woman. Church lady type. Always wore gloves, even in the summer. Never opened her windows. Only went out on Thursdays for food and to water her flowers at the little community park a block away. One day, she didn't show up. Neighbors complained of a smell. They found her slumped in the bathtub, fully clothed, clean now, seriously, as a press sheet. Mirror across from her, shattered. No obvious wounds. But the thing people remembered most, the landlord said, was her chair. She kept a padded chair exactly 3 feet from her bathroom mirror, with a small notebook in her lap and a tray of clean water beside her feet, like she was watching, waiting, writing things down. He wouldn't tell me what was found in the notebook. Just said it wasn't anything anyone wanted to read. I went home that night and placed salt along the threshold between our doors. Not because I believed in it, just because I didn't know what else to do. It still opened the next morning. No footsteps, no sound. Just that polite creaking hinge, gently extending an invitation. Then the tapping returned. Not from the closet wall this time, from the mirror. I had one of those tall, cheap dressing mirrors screwed into the back of my closet door. I'd never paid attention to it. But that night, I watched motionless as 4 light thuds echoed from inside the glass against the wood. Then, smears, like fingertips skated along the reflective surface from the inside. I packed up to leave. I was done. But when I opened my door, an envelope was waiting on the floor. No stamp, no handwriting. Inside was an old photo. A black and white portrait of a woman sitting in front of a mirror. Gloved hands on her lap. A small tray of water on the floor. And behind her, in the reflection, there was something else. Something leaning close with a face just barely distorted. I moved out within the week. The movers were late, and I waited outside with my bag. When they came up the stairs, one of them glanced toward 2C and said, "Oh, looks like the tenant across the hall's finally home." I didn't turn around, just walked past him, down the stairs, and never returned. I still have the photo. It's locked in a drawer. Because sometimes, if I pass too closely, the water glass inside inside it ripples. We bought the house to flip it. It was one of those too good to be true auction listings. 3 bedrooms, hardwood floors, big yard, historic neighborhood, all for less than most monthly NYC rents. But it needed work. A lot of it. My partner Evan has a background in carpentry, and I handle design. So we figured, why not? It was charming during the day. Sunlight pulled golden threads through the old windows, and the wooden archways made the living room feel like a portrait from the past. We joked about the squeaky stairs and the antique doorbell that didn't work. But soon, things began to feel off. It started with the floorboards in the hallway. Sometimes they creaked a little too much, like again and again, long after we'd stopped walking. At first we laughed it off. An old building settles. That's what they do. Then came the voice, not whispers. Nothing dramatic. Just once, around 2 a.m., as I was heading to the kitchen half asleep, I heard someone say, "Careful?" Right there, behind me, in the hallway. Male voice, calm, low, matter of fact. I froze, waited, turned slowly. No one. I thought it was Evan. I even mumbled something back. But when I reached the kitchen, he was still asleep on the couch, headphones in, TV paused. I remember hearing the sound of my own heartbeat louder than the fridge hum later that week. We had a company come out to inspect the crawl space under the house, so we could assess moisture and mold. But they came back up within minutes, said the entrance was blocked by something thick beneath the hallway floor. Something not quite wood and not quite earth. Evan went down the next day himself with a flashlight. First time I've ever seen him come up rattled. He wouldn't say what he saw, just said, "Pashi, we're sealing that hatch today." He nailed it shut, to caulk the baseboard and spread furniture over it like it was never there. But something didn't want it sealed. That night we were woken up by hammering. Actual hammering, right under the bedroom. We rushed downstairs, silence, then the hallway. We flipped on the light, and every nail Evan had driven into that floor, the access to the crawl space, had been shoved back out. Not all the way, just enough to lift, just enough to say, "Let me out." That night was the only time either of us said it. Evan, eyes locked on the floor, whispered, "We need to leave." I nodded. We packed everything we could in 2 hours. But as we were dragging a trunk through the living room, it happened. The floorboards beneath the hallway peeled upward, not cracked, not busted, just lifted in a perfect rectangular line, like doors opening in reverse. We saw what was underneath. Not dirt, not ducts or wires, but stairs. Going down, old wood, spiral, all hand-cut, lit by nothing. Neither of us moved, neither of us breathed. Then we heard it. "Careful?" Same voice from before, but closer. Not beside me, inside me. I don't remember much about getting into the car. Just the cold. And the sound of wood creaking in the rearview mirror. as the front door slowly opened on its own. I reported the incident as a structural concern. The county came to review it. 2 weeks later, one of the inspectors left a voicemail on my cell. Just 6 seconds. Breathing. Footsteps. Then silence. Then his voice. "You were right to leave. They're still down there." Click. The number was disconnected when I called back. The voicemail deleted itself 2 days later. I haven't spoken to anyone from that town since. I never went back. But sometimes, I wonder what was waiting beneath that hallway. Who was trying so hard to be heard? Or worse, released? If you're ever looking to buy a house built before 1950, check under the hallway. If it smells like ash and iron, leave before it opens again.